Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too. Together, redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, Amadeus.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Skift India Travel Podcast. I'm here with my colleague Bulbul again, and Bulbul and I will be doing a recap of the week. And indeed, we have a range of topics to cover this week. Welcome, Bulbul.
Hi, Peden.
Bulbul, I want to first of all begin with Oyo because we covered Oyo last week. We spoke about Oyo last week, and we talked about how Oyo is putting its IPO plans on hold. And now we see that, last week, again, I reported that Fitch Ratings has, Oyo has got an upgrade. It's gone from B minus to B and given it a stable outlook. And of course, in the story, I had mentioned that, Ritesh Agarwal, Oyo's founder, in an employee town hall, had talked about the company reporting its first ever profitable year. And I think it was a day or two later, Ritesh even tweeted about it. At that time, I heard it from a source close to the company, and Ritesh had tweeted about it and said that the company had a net income of nearly about 12 million and an EBITDA of about 107 million for fiscal 2024. I think the Fitch rating had been downgraded sometime in June 2022 because there was significant uncertainty in the company. Now, Fitch has said that it has confidence in Oyo's improved financial health. Of course, with the EBITDA, sustained EBITDA growth and cost savings, and Oyo's buyback of the 195 million in debt in November 2023. Oyo reporting its first ever, profitable financial year is significant. And, of course, Ritesh has also talked about the fact that, their operations in international markets as well. As someone who covers the Indian industry, very intrinsically, what do you make of whatever is happening at Oyo right now?
So I think, Fitch upgrading Oyo's rating is a very significant development because Oyo has been going through a lot. It has seen a period of a lot of uncertainty and instability, and the upgrade means that things are finally looking up for Oyo. And now Fitch is saying that Oyo is finally at a position where it's financially stable, especially with its buyback and, like you said, cost savings and a sustained EBITDA growth, and of course, reporting its first profitable year. It means that investors can now use Fitch's somewhat positive outlook for Oyo to refer to investments. You know, I mean, they can use this rating as a reference point on whether Oyo is a credible investment opportunity or not, which is a very positive thing for Oyo. And what this means is, I think, of course, all of this is linked to the fact that right now, because the hospitality industry is doing so well, I mean, the entire travel industry in India is doing so well, that it is also reaching Oyo, which has a not very big market share percentage in India, but it's still doing significantly well and reporting its profitable year. It's at a place where it right now does not need to necessarily look at an IPO to solve its problems. Right now, it's going through a refinancing because that's an avenue that has opened up for Oyo.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a positive development because it is reflective of an overall growth in the industry. And of course, we shouldn't forget that with this, Oyo is not completely out of the water because Fitch has said that this sort of stable outlook is tempered by high competitive intensity and demand cyclicity in the hospitality sector. Cyclicality in the demand set in the hospitality sector. So yeah, these are important factors that we need to look at, because right now, right, I mean, just in January, Fitch had continued its B minus rating. Now it has upgraded it to B. But these factors are something that we need to continuously monitor, because these are things that can make or break your company sometimes.
Correct, absolutely, and of course, we've seen that the situation can be certainly can be a bit volatile as well, and this was my discussion with of course, the Indian economy is booming and it's going great guns. We are on our way to become the third largest economy in the world. But this was the discussion that I had with Indigo CEO Peter Elbers. When I interviewed him last week, Peter and we spoke about a whole range of things. Of course, he was very tight-lipped about the business class and about the wide bodies, but of course, because they have already announced that they are going to come out with more details in August. So I guess anybody who needs more information will have to wait till August for that. But Peter and I spoke about a range of topics, and about a potential loyalty program. And he also said the same thing, that he said that even if the Indian economic growth slows down, the aviation industry would continue to grow because it is a very underpenetrated market. Perhaps it would be at a different percentage, and of course, the infrastructure and airports would need to be built, but the growth would still continue. That's what he said. And we also, when I was talking to him about the business class, he talked about the fact that, about Indigo's plans to, add something which has an Indigo touch to it. Even so, he did give an idea that his target audience are people who have never flown business class, or who will be first time. Just like Indigo's initial market when it started was the first time flyers.
Yeah.
So I think they are also looking at, for the business class also, they're looking at people who have the means but do not have access to business class right now. And most probably it will begin for their domestic routes, and for certain busy domestic routes that are frequented by corporate clients. And of course, maybe they're also looking at the short haul international routes. That's what I could make out from what Peter said. Now, what do you make of what he has said? Based on Peter's interview, and what Indigo is doing recently.
So I think one of the most interesting things that he said is, of course, in terms of India and its economic growth, where he said that, it's like you said, that if even if the economy slows down, it's not going to, because the aviation sector is underserved. The aviation sector will still continue to grow even if the economy slows down. But again, this will happen as long as the infrastructure and airports are continue to be built. So of course, as even if the economy slows down, as long as India is focusing on making sure that there is enough structural support to grow the air aviation industry, because the metropolises and the tier one cities, they're pretty much reached out to, but there's the smaller cities that we need to get to. So I think what he said there makes a lot of sense, and especially from Indigo's perspective, because that is the kind of target audience that Indigo has, right? So now that tier one and metropolitans, they've been reached out to, their initial target, like you said, are first time flyers. So they now need to reach tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And with respect to their business class, yes, I think, because we were wondering last week how they would bring the Indigo aspect to it, and we reached the affordable luxury point of them giving affordable luxury. So yeah, I think we have a little more clarity on that. That is exactly what Indigo plans to do. They want to reach out to the first time business class flyers. So we may, I mean, people who have flown business class might not think of it as, well, you might not technically think of it as a business class offering, but for people who've never done that, it would definitely be an upgrade. And that's how it starts. Like Indigo is probably offering what is a stepping stone for people who've never flown business class, to, maybe a first step of what business class can feel like, and then giving them the boost to sort of reach that place where they actually fly, maybe like a full fledged business class, like a full service business class
Mhm.
offering. So,
Yeah, I
but
guess
apart
I
from
was
that,
also very interested in the fact that, I was very happy to know that, I spoke to Peter about the second airport at Delhi, the Jewar airport, right? And
yeah,
he
yeah,
also spoke about the fact that, and he gave cited examples of Paris, London, Shanghai, New York,
hmm,
Tokyo, and said that all these cities have two or more airports. Of course, it's not very easy having two airports in one city, but that is
yeah.
as a result of the demand in these cities. So he also gave a small example of the Goa airport, and he said that while Goa started an airport last year, but it hasn't taken away traffic from the existing airport. So he called Jewar a welcome addition.
Yes, absolutely. Because if we currently see, there are, be it night or day, there are long queues at the Delhi airport. I mean, even if you're going in the middle of the night, there is such a long queue that you need to wait just to enter the airport,
Yes, because
right? And
in India, unlike any other country, I don't know of any other country in the world. In India, you before you enter the airport, that's right there at the airport gate. You need to
yeah,
show your credentials. You need to show that you have entered the airport with a valid ticket. Your ticket, that you're flying that day, and then they will
yes.
check your ID. Something your
Yeah,
identity.
I think that is something that has been taken as a measure. I mean, if the system from abroad was to be followed in India, the it would be very difficult to manage the number of people that would come in in the inside the airport.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, we
of
see
course,
that,
in India,
like, the
entire
number of people.
families come to drop off people, right?
Exactly. More people are there to drop off
Yeah,
people
so
than they are
it's
in the
one
queue.
person who's flying and six people who's accompanying them because they need to drop them at the airport. And that's very
Yeah.
interesting,
So they.
Bulbul, because yeah, I recently last week I also wrote about DigiYatra because as
Yeah.
someone who does fly frequently, I find DigiYatra a welcome change because of course DigiYatra is right now only available for domestic operations, and DigiYatra is the concept that post COVID we heard about this concept that what's your face is your boarding pass. That's what they say. So
Mhm.
DigiYatra is very much built on that concept. So the moment DigiYatra came, I started using it, and it's initially there were teething problems. There were certain things that were not working well, but now it's operational in 14 airports in India domestically, and is also due to launch. I think that's what the DigiYatra Foundation CEO Suresh had said. Suresh Kadakbhavi. So Suresh said that
Hmm.
I actually heard him speak at the Future Aviation Forum in Riyadh, and I had based on what he had said. So I had filed a small story last week about what does he plan for DigiYatra, and he spoke about bringing DigiYatra for international travel, which is a huge help because in my story also I've cited how one of the former CEOs of Vistara, Sanjeev Kapoor, had written about the fact that he had talked about the queue outside Delhi airport, and which is what exactly that
Mhm.
you were talking about. The queue is
Yeah.
something that you need, and then you have a queue at the airport, right? You before you enter the airport, then there's a queue for baggage when you give your bag to drop your baggage, and then there's a queue at security, and then there's a queue at immigration. So I mean, like, if you have, that is why airlines in India call you at least 3 or 4 times 3 or 4 hours before your flight, international flight, right? Because there are so many hoops that you need to jump through. But DigiYatra has
Yeah.
made that really easy because the only time you need to queue up is when you go for your bag drop. Otherwise, security is also a breeze, and it's made life a lot easier for most of us, for people who travel very frequently. And but there have been concerns about how it is used, what the data is used for. There is a lot of concern about that also. But tell me about your experience with DigiYatra. Have you used DigiYatra at airports, and what do you feel about it?
I feel very ashamed saying this that I haven't used DigiYatra yet,
Oh my God, you
but
need
that's
to you need to start doing that,
I
because
need to.
yes,
I
because
need to. So
domestic travel
I
is, yeah, I know how. I know that Delhi has like three terminals. There's the Terminal 1, Terminal
yes.
2. Terminal
Hmm.
1 and 2 are completely dedicated to domestic. Terminal 3 is,
Yes.
between domestic, and because the full service carriers fly from there. But
Yeah.
let me tell you that DigiYatra is a game changer.
I absolutely believe that, and the only reason I haven't used DigiYatra yet is because I haven't had the opportunity to. But I'm absolutely, I mean, it's been months. I've been planning to use DigiYatra whenever I fly next domestically. But yes, it's something that I have seen, and I feel like, I mean, because I'm someone that I'm like, why am I not using this? Please let me use this. The last time when I flew international, I was looking at that queue and I was like, maybe I should just
Take a
like
take a take a
ask them if I can please,
yeah.
I can please use DigiYatra. Just let me. And so yes, I'm planning to use it, but I've what I've heard from everyone like you is that it's something that is making life so much easier, especially because your airport experience through and through are just queues. So
Mhm.
you're in a queue to enter the airport, then you're in a queue to check in your bags, and then you're in a queue for immigration, then you're in a queue for security check, and then after everything is said and done, you're in a queue for your boarding the plane, and it takes a really long time. It's just you're just queuing up everywhere, and it's something like if you have a 15, 16, 17 hour journey ahead of you, and then but you're at the airport like 3 4 hours before that. It's just something that is, I think, unnecessary. And if and the DigiYatra has the potential to change that. Of course they would need to, it's a technological, uh, it's a process where they would need to link it to the e-passports, which thankfully India has. And like in integrating them into the app, so that, because of course in domestic travel, this is much more easier than to do it for international, where you need to coordinate with different countries and their norms, and making sure that they're okay with the fact that your face, your biometrics are your identifiers, and that there is a proper system in place. So that is an issue, and of course they need to tackle that. But if that is done, I think it would be something that will just make life much more convenient for travelers.
Yes, Bulbul.
And because the rest of the airport, like the airport experience generally is supposed to be something that is convenient, something
Exactly. And when you're
like,
catching a flight, especially when you're catching an
yeah,
international flight, and there are so many things
hmm,
that you need to be worried about, and airport queues
absolutely,
should be the last of your worries, right? So
yeah.
I starting with Bulbul, I would suggest use Digi, while it is there
I
for
will, I
domestic.
will, I promise.
Yeah, and I'm very keen to I mean, like, I know that it's going to take some time. There are a lot of things that need to be put into place before it begins for international, but I would suggest using DigiYatra for especially if you want to cut those queues and just have a
Yeah.
pleasant airport experience, and perhaps get some time to do some shopping at duty free. um,
And I think one of the biggest issues is that is getting people okay with using this level of technology.
yes,
I think that is also an issue.
yeah, I mean, like, and about privacy concerns,
Mm-hmm.
Suresh has addressed a lot of those and talked about it. My interview, my copy that I, wrote based on his interaction at the Future Aviation Forum, says a lot about how they are, looking to ensure that the data is not misused.
Hmm.
So that was an interesting take. And of course, if you want to give international travelers a good experience when they travel domestically as well, that should also, because I'm sure international travelers are not used to standing in a queue just before entering the airport as well, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah, there's
and
not.
of course, India has been putting a lot of effort to attract international travelers. The Indian, the tourism ministry has been, and state tourism boards have been participating in several international travel trade events. Like ATM, IMEX, Frankfurt. But still, if you look at the foreign tourist arrivals in India, even though it did go up in 2023 compared to 2022, and that was by a significant 64%, but that we have
Hmm.
still not hit the 10 million visitor mark. And for a
No, we have.
country like India, not hitting 10 million visitor is saying something, right?
Yeah.
Look at places like Bali gets about 20 million international visitors, and
Mm-hmm.
India being with the size that it has and what it has to offer, we have still not hit the 10 million visitor mark.
Yeah.
Last year, the number was about six and a half, a little less than 6.5 million.
Yeah.
You recently spoke to some boutique hotels in India, and
Yeah.
and spoke about the trends around international travelers in India. So share some of the insights that you got from these hotels.
Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too. Together, redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, amadeus.com.
Yeah. So, like you said, that we're trying to attract international travelers. I mean, we've heard from the tourism minister G. Kishan Reddy that there's an effort to liberalize, streamline, and simplify visa processes so that the international travelers find it easy to come to India, because, like you said, Bali and places around us that have more scenic views of what they offer. I mean, we have them. We just people don't know that we have them. But what I mean, they have pretty easy. They have pretty simplified visa processes, and so that's one area India is working on. But what international travelers in India are looking for, from what I've learned, are authentic experiences, unique experiences. And we are attracting a lot of people from the US, UK, Australia. And then we have people coming in from different countries in Europe. And this is basically our travel source markets for at least these boutique hotels. And so when they're seeking unique experiences, India has a lot of those to offer, right? The boutique hotels that I spoke to are only a fraction of what we offer, and we have 28. I'm sorry, I keep getting confused between how many states we have at the moment. We have 28 states and 8 union territories, and all of them have something different to offer. If you want hill stations, we have them, and we have various kinds of them. We have the entire northeast that is yet to be explored. And then we have a huge coastline. We have island archipelagos, and then we have if you want Goa, we have the beaches, we have inland, we have unexplored areas like Varkala that have everything to offer. But all of these places, I mean, and we also have Lakshadweep, which, as we know, right now has been in the news quite recently. But we
Mhm.
have all of these things. We just don't have. Um, we haven't been able to communicate that properly. And of course, the ministry, I mean, India and state boards are trying to change that when they're going out to, or they're going out of the country, they're going into international trade shows to explain to the target audiences that, "See, this is what we have, this is what we can offer. Because right now everyone is looking at India but everyone is looking at India as a major market, as a source market. Not many people are looking at India as a tourist destination, because somewhere a lot of tourists continue to believe that India is a spiritual tourism destination. We have a lot of those. We have a lot of, I mean, for spiritual tourists, we do have a lot to offer, but we have a lot to offer for everyone. We have a lot of, we have infrastructure to support corporate events. We have the infrastructure to support leisure travel, and it's just something that is, we have a lot of cultural diversity, that if people want unique experiences, they would need to visit again and again and again, just to be able to visit each and every culture, experience each and every culture. Because even us living in India, we haven't done that. It takes years of people's lives to dedicatedly travel across the length and breadth of India to explore everything that India has to offer, but we just have not been able to communicate that, I think. And I that is an issue,
Mhm.
because we're trying to ramp up the numbers, but we haven't told them what we're
Yeah,
offering.
I guess about the fact that people are not aware. I think people are aware, but it's just that, India needs, something that even Thailand is doing, because of course Thailand
Hmm.
understands that there is a concentration of tourists in certain places. So they are developing
Yeah,
what are called secondary destinations. And that is what is
right.
needed for India as well, because we have our popular hill stations. We have a few other places that
True.
people go to, but I think secondary destinations is what India needs. And I know that you talked about, you've in your story last week in the India report, you talked about over tourism. Of course, over tourism is a
Hmm.
word that has been coined by Skift. There have been, you've talked about the fact that there have been recent efforts by multiple states about mandatory
Yeah.
registrations for tourists, right? Uttarakhand for the Char Dham Yatra. And
Hmm.
at some point in time, you also talked about the Madras High Court has made it mandatory for all motor vehicles, that want to enter Nilgiri and Kodaikanal between, I think, May 7th and June 30th to obtain electronic passes, right? Because that's the
Hmm.
peak summer season in India where everybody is
Yeah.
out to travel. And let me share a personal experience with you. I mean,
Yes.
I last week I felt that the heat in Delhi was too much. I just needed, because it was, of course, it was getting more than
Like
50
any
degrees.
sane person,
Yeah, it was just too much. So, and
it
I
was.
have the privilege of being born in a hill station. So I decided that, oh, I'm going to go to my hometown Darjeeling. Now Darjeeling is a popular hill station, was a popular hill station, and there were certain, certain things that happened, political instability, because of which not many tourists were coming. But then came Anurag Basu and Ranbir Kapoor with their movie Barfi, and then they showcased how beautiful Darjeeling is. Of course, we knew that, but then so did the rest of the country. Then after that,
Yes.
we've been seeing a surge of tourists. But I've been coming to Darjeeling every year. I come at least thrice or four times a year every year. But post
Hmm.
COVID, the kind of crowds that I have seen, I've never seen any in Darjeeling, never ever. So I've lived in Darjeeling for a long time. So I was just
Hmm.
shocked. But this time, when I came to Darjeeling on Sunday, when I flew down to Bagdogra, and then from Bagdogra, Darjeeling doesn't have it doesn't have its own airport. So the airport is about
Yeah.
3 hours from Darjeeling. So
And then you
usually
have an
the drive,
uphill drive.
yeah, it's an uphill drive and it takes about 3 hours. So usually it takes about
Hmm.
3 hours. I mean, like 3 hours is when you are driving at a leisurely pace. Um,
Hmm.
but this time, for the first time in my life, I got stuck in what we call a traffic jam in Darjeeling. I had never
Oh God.
experienced it. I had never ever experienced it. And
Wow.
so it took me about 5.5 to 6 hours to reach Darjeeling. And the traffic jam
Whoa.
was concentrated just before you enter Darjeeling. And when on Sunday, so what I usually do is that, I just put down my bags and then I go to Chaurasta. There's this small road
Hmm.
there, which is beautiful and it's very nice. You can see the Kanchenjunga from there. It
Hmm.
was so crowded that I just returned midway because it was so crowded, because it had only tourists. So Darjeeling is a very small town. It does not have the
Hmm.
infrastructure to take in so many tourists. And there are many
Yeah.
beautiful places nearby Darjeeling. So efforts,
Hmm.
I'm giving Darjeeling as an example because this is something that I've experienced firsthand. And I know
Hmm.
that, last week you did a story about over tourism, and I have a personal thing that I could share. So,
Yeah.
of course, I think over tourism is something that we need to seriously consider. Of course, we are not getting enough international tourists, but look at the domestic tourists in India. I mean, like, we are the most populous nation in on planet Earth. So
Yeah.
I think over tourism is something that we seriously need to consider, and need to consider about secondary destinations as well.
Yeah. So last week, I was speaking to someone in Madhya Pradesh tourism, and I realized that they're actually planning. So Madhya Pradesh is a very is in the central part of India.
Mhm.
It has a lot to offer because if we see it is one of the destinations that markets itself the most in India, and always with very beautiful television commercials. I'm sorry, that's just something that is a because I've been seeing it since I was a child. It's something that never gets out of my mind.
Yes, the
At
Hindustan
all,
ka
at
dil
all
dekho.
yeah, at all points of time, there is at least one Madhya Pradesh TVC song that is going on in my head. That's just something. But I mean, and I did get a chance to visit Madhya Pradesh last year, and it's it's a beautiful place. It has so much to offer, but again, like any other place, like you said, like any other place in India, um, the tourist concentration is limited to certain parts of that state. Even though there are more places that can be explored, it's just that, especially Ujjain, where the Mahakaleshwar temple is, right? It's just that Mahakaleshwar temple, because of the Mahakaleshwar temple, Ujjain is just filled with people throughout the year. I mean, if you see last year's figures, more than 50% of the tourists that visited MP last year, which was, by the way, I think about 112 million tourists went to Madhya Pradesh last year, and more than 50% of those tourists were in Ujjain, visited Ujjain. I mean, about 50%. They were in Ujjain. And you see, so that's about like 50, 60 million people just visited Ujjain, and that it's a lot to handle for a particular place
Mhm.
that may not have that's primarily a temple and does not necessarily have that kind of infrastructure to support this kind of tourist influx. And so I was speaking to someone, and they said that MP is looking at implementing a mandatory registration process like Uttarakhand did with the Char Dham Yatra. And then I was having a discussion with someone who said that is MP. I mean, does this mean that MP would implement a Venice like tourism fees? And I think that might not be as effective in India as a mandatory registration, because then they can actually make sure of who is coming in and who is going out, and that is required because one that would if someone is wanting to visit Mahakaleshwar temple and they're registering and they need to go on a particular day, they would like to be around Ujjain, or on a particular around Ujjain for a few days, so they might be able to explore more destinations. And that would so they would not just like they'll be in the periphery, but they would not just be in Ujjain for other days. Because right now what is happening is a lot of tourists keep like this is something that I've personally experienced with domestic tourists and pilgrimage in India. If they're going to a place, say Shirdi, my example is Shirdi specific because I've been there and I've seen people do this. They would go visit Shirdi for 3 days, and then they would keep visiting the temple again and again and again for 3 days. Nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that, except that what that does is it just creates more people for visiting that temple on a particular day, leaving out, I mean, either people who are visiting for the first time that particular day, they're queuing up, and so the repeat viewers are queuing up. It's leading to a situation where the temple authorities are helpless on what to do. So if there is a registration system and people can visit once a day and they need to register for the next day, if they don't get that registration, if they're not allowed to visit that temple, they would probably move to the periphery before they get the next day, right? So
Mhm.
it'll allow them to view different areas, nearby areas at least, and it would streamline the process of how tourists are visiting. Uh, and I think that is very required. And on the point of what you said, to facilitate this, MP is working very hard on destination development, so that it's so that people don't feel like if they're going to Ujjain they just need to go to the Mahakaleshwar temple. That there are that they know that there are other places that they can visit, nearby places that they can visit, that has the infrastructure to support them, that has things that they can see and be enthralled by. But it's just, it's something that needs to be done to curtail tourist inflow at places. I mean, if you see Vrindavan, Ayodhya, all of these places, the key pilgrimage sites, it gets a lot. It becomes a lot for everyone who's visiting. It sort of removes your focus from the purpose of your visit, and you just sort of think, okay, can, like, when do I get to that place where I get to see or do the
Mhm.
darshan? I mean, get to see what the temple is and experience that, right? So I mean, I think MP is planning that, but I think a lot of places do need to do that. I mean, Nainital has done something similar for ecotourism. I mean, not registration; they've imposed a cleanliness fee, but you know, small steps, I
Yeah, I
think.
mean, I mean,
But
like, look at
we
what
need to do
Bhutan
something
is
about it.
doing, right? Bhutan, I think
Yeah,
Bhutan is a classic example. And like 1,250 rupees per day per person for Indian citizens, and for foreigners, it's about $200 per day. So
yeah.
of course, I
Hmm.
mean, like, if you they want tourists, but they want to ensure that the tourists that come are able to afford that.
Yeah.
So, Bulbul, I think today we've discussed a whole range of things, and it was great fun chatting with you as usual. Um, Thank you very much. Thank you to
Thank you,
all our
Peden.
thank you to all our listeners also who've been listening to me and Bulbul talking about what's happening in India. And please do subscribe to us through your favorite listening app. It was great talking to you, Bulbul, again. Thank you very much.
This has been the Skift India Travel Podcast. Thank you for listening.